Great. You mean a 180?
Or a 180.
Because the 360 is going the same direction.
I
love that. I do it all the time.
I am good 360 most days. So that works for me. That's relevant for me.
Welcome to the CEO Parenting Podcast. I'm Thomas Cox. This show is all about hearing the stories of business owners or C-suite executives who have kids and that are still doing great in both parenting, being a spouse, and business. Join us each week as we talk to somebody and just hear their story. The biggest thing we do is hear people's stories, and that's what's most fascinating, from people that run billion-dollar companies to people that run small businesses here locally. It's a lot of fun, and every week it is different. So our guest this week is Miss Crystal Strickland from Southern Posies. All the way from Montgomery. Drove up just for this.
Yeah, just for this. Just to see you.
Thank you. I'm so excited. Okay, Southern Posies. I want you to talk about Southern Posies in a nutshell, and then let's trace back and talk about just kind of your story.
Got it.
So what's Southern Posies?
Yeah, so we are an event planning and floral design company. I would say we specialize, in weddings, and that was kind of our bread and butter initially, but we also do a lot of corporate events, which I love too. So I'm really passionate just about serving people during, special milestones in their lives and businesses. So I guess in a nutshell, I would say we're planners, designers, and floral designers.
Okay. So let's talk about the intricacies of that. So it's three things. So planners of planning of an event. I deal with you and people like you all the time. Some are great, some are not. Your team was great when we worked with you on this last event. The designing part.
Yes.
I get floral design.
Yes.
I get planning the event. Let's talk about the design part, because that's really like an abstract thing for a lot of people.
Right. And I'm so glad and love talking about this because it can be very vague about what design actually is and what is the difference between that and just planning. So, with us, my goal, I want to be able to intentionally approach every single client with a new set of eyes for every single project that we do. By that, I'm meaning I like to take them, and understand exactly who they are, what they love, who they're about, like what fires them up, and really be able to take, themselves, their personalities, and infuse that into their wedding or event. And so by learning more about our clients, we're able to be very, very intentional and purposeful with every single detail that we infuse into the planning itself. So think of it like this. We are, in essence, we're the architects, of the event itself. And then we're also the interior designers and the builders. So it's kind of everything wrapped all into one. So with having the design component, it's not us just booking, a vendor and saying, okay, we have it booked and it's done. It's us taking it a step further. And I'll give you a scenario in a second. Taking that vendor, once it's booked, then we're focusing in on those design details that really make that event very unique and different. So
give me the example you were talking about.
Yeah. So, for example, I would say, let's just give catering, a shot. So we book a caterer, right? And we've talked to the catering company, have kind of talked about ideas and things that they might be interested in food wise. But I like to take it that step further. We're going to do a really detailed questionnaire to get to know
the caterer or the person?
The person,
okay.
The bride and groom. So, or the corporate client,
sure.
Whoever it might be. And really understand their likes, dislikes, if they have any like traditions of food in their family, certain meals, or even if they've traveled somewhere and they love, a certain, type food, whatever it might be. I want to find out those intricacies of the catering itself and the food itself in order to be able to put together a really detailed curated menu. So once we have that questionnaire in play, then we're sitting down and we're talking about, different food options and ideas. And then we break in as far as, how is that going to be displayed?
Sure.
Is it going to be on a 5-foot round table? And what color is that linen going to be? Are we going to have, elevated serving pieces? What are those serving pieces going to look like?
Right.
How is it going to be served? Is it going to be, in a chafer or a bowl or an individual precious little cup or cone.
Carving station, action station. Is a human going to be there? Is a human not going to be there?
Exactly.
Yeah. Double-sided, single-sided. Like the questions can go on. Just in catering.
Yes. And that is what I'm meaning by more of that design element. And then breaking into like food cards and signage. What do we want the servers to wear? Do we want them to have matching bow ties that coordinate, with the colors of the event? Or are they going to have fabulous aprons that have the, couple's monogram or crest? There's a lot of different, facets and intricacies of every single vendor in play at an event. So our job, we want to go in and find out those details with the client to be able to bring those out.
But you also don't have to go to that extreme on all the events that you do, correct? Okay, so let's say, for example, so some people may not want that.
Yeah. Well,
like it's not important to me that all the serving people have our monogram. It's not important to me. Okay. So you just say, okay, great. That's fine.
Correct. Yeah. They're going to make the ultimate decision on what they want to do and what they don't want to do. But I feel like, for us, it's what makes our events very unique and different, approaching it with a new set of eyes and presenting a client with a lot of different ideas that come to our mind after we've gotten to know them and understand more about who they are, what fires them up, what they love, and bringing that all together.
So here's the thing that we have. So we're very, very similar to that in a way of like, tell me what you want.
Yeah.
Emily has questions that she asks that kind of bring those things out. So you have what you described is what I call extremely custom. So you have something that's extremely custom. You said it great when you said, see each client through a new set of eyes.
Yeah.
Which is wonderful. Do you have an option? Because we do. Do you have an option that is more, I hate to say the word, but more streamlined or more simple?
Simple? I am not a simple girl.
Yeah.
And, it's sometimes I wish I could be. I tend to overcomplicate things, but I've realized that's also what makes me really good at my job because it's oftentimes the finite details, that really can make an event very unique and different. So I would say, if it's somebody that is wanting more of a simple, approach, very cut and dry, they're like, hey, I just need a caterer for an event. I've referred, caterers left and right, happy to, divulge that information. But if it's somebody that is looking just for more of a, hey, I need this, hey, I need that, they're probably not going to be best suited for our planning and design service just because they're not able to take full advantage of what we're good at and what we do. Okay.
So here's a technical question. You might know the answer. Yeah. So for everyone that makes a contact with you, what is your close rate? Meaning 10 people contact, whether it be email, Aunt Susie said to call, Crystal, cause y'all went to Sunday school together or whatever. What is your close rate out of that percentage wise?
I would say probably closer to out of 10, 7 out of 10.
So of 10 high. People that call, y'all book with 7 of them?
Very close. Yeah.
That is high. So we're like probably 30 or 40.
Yeah. But see, we also have a few different services. So you're going to have to define what they're calling about, if they're calling specifically about wedding planning or just florals.
Okay. So let me give you an example. Okay. So what if someone calls Neely here in Birmingham, Neely Butler, Maria Me.
She's a great friend. She's awesome.
She's wonderful. Yeah. But if they want you to do flowers, because you're great at flowers. Like your flowers are wonderful. I've seen them. They're great.
Thank you.
Do you ever have that happen where you've got another planner and they want you to do the flowers?
Yes. And we love that because my philosophy early on in my business, and we're a little over 10 years old, it was, and I know you hear it, like community over competition. Yeah. I wanted, other, people in the industry to be able to feel like they could call us. And even if they're a planner or designer, feel like they could lean into us and hire us for, floral design services, because I love partnering with other creatives. And it's truly like, it's almost like a mastermind at that point, because you have so many different parties involved. So I like to approach it more of as like a community and collaborative effort. And I would say, I feel like I've hopefully done a really good job at making sure that other planners feel that way about us.
So let's go back. So where'd you grow up? Let's start from The early days.
The early days.
So where'd you grow up?
Montgomery, Alabama.
Okay.
Born and raised. Yep.
So high school, college, talk to me about that transition. So you told me what you majored in, but I still don't know what that is. So talk about, where'd you go to high school?
So I went to Trinity Presbyterian, private school in Montgomery.
Yep.
And then from there, went to Auburn and loved it. I was on the 4.5-year plan, had to squeeze in an extra football season.
That's it.
So there I was in human sciences and majored in apparel merchandising. I originally was in apparel design, which is a little bit different than the merchandising route. It focuses more on, like seamstress work, sewing, designing, making your own clothes. And
so if someone's going to go into, it's not easy to say, someone's going to go into apparel merchandising, what will they be when they grow up?
Yeah, so great question. The merchandising route is, I would say it's more of that trajectory with, you could be working at like a large, department store, or eventually have your own retail, boutique.
Okay.
And not necessarily have to be the designer, or you might be a buyer, for, let's just say, Dillard's or Macy's or Saks, go into these larger stores and be able to handle more of the merchandising side.
So that's more business oriented.
A little bit more business oriented.
But you're not in a school of business.
So I had a dual minor in finance and business administration. So I didn't throw that one in there, but yeah. So I had 2 minors and then majored in apparel merchandising.
So when you picked that, because they've got hospitality at Auburn, they've got a great hospitality program.
They do.
Because that's your hospitality. When you picked that, what did you want to be? Like, I want to go do this, Mom.
Yeah. So funny enough, I thought that I wanted to have my own clothing line and boutique. And I was that girl in high school that was making my own clothes. I would lay out my own patterns, and I was sewing.
Like make your own clothes because you didn't have any, your family didn't have any money, or make your own clothes because that's what you wanted to do?
I just enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's great.
I loved it. I loved fabrics. I was bedazzling my shoes. I added butterflies to my heels.
Bedazzled. I have not heard the word
literally
bedazzled.
Rhinestones covering my shoes. And I was, I would literally leave trails of like glitter and beads everywhere I went.
That's
but
awesome.
I just have always loved creating.
Sure.
And I love to paint. Really anything with my hands. I'm just super passionate about it. Just fires me up. But so that's what led me on that trajectory.
Okay.
I thought that's what I wanted to do.
But
believe it or not, I feel like the Lord has, he sets you up in these different paths, in your life. And you're like, why in the world am I doing this? Or what does this mean? And funny enough, I actually use a lot that I learned in that degree, and also with previous jobs that I had about fabrics and textures and like how to take color, and infuse that into an event. So I laugh and tell people, where I used to love dressing people, I dress events.
Yeah.
So
no, that's great.
So
you go to Auburn, get this degree, and then transition from there. Where do you go from there? First job.
Yeah.
First big girl job.
So yeah, I had to have an internship with my major, and I ended up taking an internship with a social and event planning magazine in Montgomery. Called RSVP Montgomery, and their focus was really twofold. They had the publication, and then they had the social and event planning side, where they would plan events and then put them in the publication. So
they just did what they do events for, just to put in the magazine.
Well, people would call, and want, planning for their wedding.
Oh, so they were like planning services.
Their planning services, yes.
Oh.
Yes. So
not a bad little model.
Yeah. And the main reason why I wanted to do my internship there was I handled all of the fashion photo shoots with the magazine. So I helped coordinate, everything with photography, with models, with different, stores and brands, handled dressing, and just determining all of those logistics involved in the fashion spectrum of the magazine, that editorial.
Okay. So the internship, let's talk about internships, because
Yeah.
I think internships are a waste of time in some way.
In some ways,
Hear me out.
Yeah.
I don't love having interns because about the time they get to know something, they leave.
They leave. Yeah.
But if you can have an intern that works hard and at least has an idea of what to do,
Yeah.
you get value and they get value.
And they get value. Well,
so tell me about, did you have a good internship?
I did, because she offered me a full-time job when I
There
did
you go.
graduate. So it was during that internship that I learned a lot of different things. I really got to dabble in events and just kind of understand how, you put an event together. We were doing Sweet 16 birthday parties. I mean, put together an elaborate Sweet 16 birthday party on a riverboat, and had 3 levels of entertainment and, just really fun experiences that, pushed me into that event world that I didn't even realize that I loved. And then I was also handling weddings. So my boss then at the time, she was like, I want you to be able to focus on any of the weddings and a lot of these events that come in conjunction with the other stuff that you're working on. And I also handled a lot of ad sales as well, which we can get into that
Okay,
too.
so let's go. So you're planning events, you're planning weddings, and you're doing ad sales.
And I'm doing ad sales. So
they are using you.
So I had, really I was immersed in so many different parts of that business, but I thank God for it today just because it taught me so much.
You're doing so many different things. It gave you an opportunity to say, I like this and I love this.
100%. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
So I was handling stuff with the city of Montgomery. I did all of at that point, we're doing like pub crawls, which are, I would call businesses and have them, provide or offer a discounted, food or beverage or a free item. People could come down to the pub crawl. They could get a wristband and they could hop from bar to bar or restaurant to restaurant. It was a lot of fun, entertainment. So did a lot of fun projects like that.
We need to do that on 2nd Avenue down here.
Wine festivals.
Yes.
So I've coordinated just a lot, a big events with that company. And then I also did smaller scale events as well, which were like birthday parties or graduations. I remember doing something for Bassmasters, just really fun events that were super cool, to work in. And that's when I also had the opportunity to start decorating, and designing at some of these events because the people that were hiring us were like, hey, do you have anyone that can do flowers or that can help me with, linens or this and that? And I was like, let's
done that before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Got this.
So did you take the job after college?
I did.
How long did you work there?
So I was there, I want to say over probably 2 years.
Okay.
Maybe.
So 2 years.
Yeah.
So you're 24, 25 at the time. Because you're on a 4.5-year plan like me. So 24, 25, where did you go from there?
So,
are you married? I'm sorry.
I am married.
Oh, you are married. Okay.
I met my husband when we were 14. We started dating when we were 14. Yeah, we're one of those couples.
Oh, wow.
High school sweethearts. So yeah, he went to Trinity as well and then went to Auburn. We kind of followed each other and
so sweet.
He moved back. I moved back. He's a banker.
Okay.
So he's a super smart finance guy. But yeah, so I'm trying to think a couple of years there, but there was at one point where I just wanted to learn as much as I could about events because that love for events flourished there. So my boss at that point, I was kind of going back and forth between some part-time work for her during the week and wanted to kind of go into some weekend work at a venue downtown Montgomery. So she
totally separate though.
Yes, totally separate. So with the magazine, she had me, certain portions of certain hours of the week, and then I would go and work for a venue certain hours as well. And then I was also helping another floral designer in town on various weekends, just with setups and takedowns. So I really hit the ground running just to understand more about events as a whole. With the venue that I worked at, it really educated me on spatial awareness, more about how to actually set up a space, what works, what's not going to work, how to sell a space. So that was a really cool, avenue as well. And then of course, boots on the ground, working with, another designer. That occurred probably.
Designer, actual spatial designer or flowers? Because we haven't gotten into flowers yet.
Flower designer. Okay. But I didn't have the opportunity to actually learn from her, doing flowers in the studio. More or less it was me coming in once the flowers were arranged, on a Saturday, and just helping set them up, and helping, she's a planner as well. So helping her, on the back end with planning.
So let me get this straight. So you're working a 9 to 5-ish job with the RSVP. On the side weekend, you're doing event stuff at a venue. And
yeah.
you're working flowers. So this is very, very similar to me.
Yeah.
So you get out, I got out of college and had 2 or 3 jobs.
Yeah.
No kids. Are you married yet?
So I need to look and see what year that was, but I got married in 2011. And I graduated in 2009. So it would have been right. Yeah.
Right around there.
Now with the venue, I did work more of like a part-time. I honestly don't even know how I did it all. Like I was working with the magazine, with the venue, I was just everywhere because I wanted. But
that's the way it's supposed to be, Crystal.
Yeah.
Like the amount of things that you learned by fire.
Yeah.
You can't replace that.
No.
Because you didn't have a kid. Mm-hmm. Your husband was probably working a lot because he was young too.
Yep.
2 ships passing the night in some ways, which is totally fine.
Right.
Like, I mean, to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So like, I think that's the way it's supposed to be as far as just like when you get out and when you start.
Yeah. And I've always
been
way
with me.
A self-motivator. So I've always, enjoyed working. I come from a lot of entrepreneurs. My grandfather started a custom home building business, and my parents are now in that same business.
The same thing?
Yeah, they're custom home builders for the same company that my grandfather started. And it's funny. I always tell people, like, if you want an incredible permanent home, call my dad. If you want an incredible temporary one, call me.
I can do it.
I'm essentially building a home, with events.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, it's funny how your course changes and the experience that you gain really can set you up into figuring out what fuels you and what you love the most. Well,
you were in so many different things. You realized pretty quickly you don't want to own a venue, or you may not want to own your venue. You love the flowers. Okay, so transition. So you're there too. You're doing all these things. Tell me what was next.
Okay, so then I totally did like a 360.
Great. You mean a 180?
Or a 180.
Because the 360 is going the same direction.
I
love that. I do it all the time.
I am good 360 most days. So that works for me. That's relevant for me. So yeah, I did a 180 and
I'm sorry.
And went a total opposite direction. I was really trying to make ends meet. My husband and I, we were newly married, and we, at that point I just had to make some decisions and stick to like one.
Stick to making money. Let's make money.
Let's make money. Yeah. Okay. It's time. So I ended up.
I'm a little scared of what you're going to tell me.
You're going to laugh. Okay. It's okay. So I end up going into sales, an additional sales type job, but it's Gannett is the parent company that I worked for. They own the Montgomery Advertiser and other broadcasting networks across the country. They're huge. So I was clicking my heels in the corporate world.
Okay.
But what they wanted me to do was be their deal chicken girl.
I don't know what that means.
So deal, DEAL, deal chicken is, I don't even think it's in existence today. It might go by a different name, but it was similar to Groupon or Living Social.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was going out and getting deals from businesses.
Okay. So you'd say, go to XYZ Steakhouse. Thomas's Steakhouse. Hey, Thomas's Steakhouse. Come in here. What we want to do is we want to put you in this deal thing. And we want you to give a coupon for.
So this is my pitch, Thomas.
Okay.
All right.
Tell me. Let's do it.
So, all right. I'm Crystal.
Hey, Crystal.
With Dill Chicken. And
that's the real name.
Yes, that's the real name. It's a chicken mascot. Like I had to go in parades with this chicken beside me on a float down streets, throwing out candy. Yeah, the whole works.
Perfect. Okay. So hey, Crystal.
Thomas, so like your restaurant is incredible.
Thank you.
But like, tell me about your business. Like, what is your traffic like?
We got so-and-so in this. Okay. Yeah.
I can help you.
Okay.
So Deal Chicken, what we're about, is really promoting local businesses. And we want to be able to take your business and push it out there into the world and have additional people that may not have stepped foot into your steakhouse, but they're going to step foot into your steakhouse and they're going to come in droves. So let me tell you how we're going to do it.
Tell me.
All right. So I need you to offer like a $50 gift card. Okay.
Oh.
In essence. All right. Okay. But we're going to sell it for $25.
Okay.
Of that $25, I'm going to make 60%. You're going to make 40%. But I'm telling you, all of these people, they are going to be lifetime customers
because
of yours.
they're going to come back.
They're going to come back. And here's our return rate.
And yeah.
Yeah. So, you know,
were you good at it?
I was.
Okay.
Actually, yeah.
Did you make a lot of money?
I did well. I will say the caveat to that is my boss at that point, he lived in, he was like in Illinois, maybe even Chicago, like a bigger city.
Yeah.
And he was comparing my market to other big markets like Atlanta, or
in Montgomery.
Miami.
You were selling Montgomery?
I'm in Montgomery. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So my goals and what I had to reach, goal-wise was a lot tougher, just because it's not as big of a city. We have a lot of industry, but it's, nothing compared to like Atlanta. So I had to meet, it was 100 cold calls every 2 days, and I had to document those. And so I would burn up the phone lines. Wow. And I was hitting the pavement, and I don't do well when somebody tells me no. Like I want to find out why you're telling me no, because we're going to figure out how to make it a yes. So I was all about the sales. Like I did enjoy that. I liked getting out there, and I did feel like I was helping businesses because there were a lot of businesses that I had not even heard of. And like, I felt like other people, if they had heard about them, they would go, loyal patrons as well. So
how long did you do Dill Chicken? I hate that. I feel like funny saying that.
Okay. A little over a year.
So let's talk logistically. Did it help with the finances? Did you make more money doing that than you were the other stuff?
I did. I did. And, benefits, I was looking at all the different things that, it was able to offer.
So you're like 25-ish at the time. So you do Dill Chicken for a year, then what? Now,
keep in mind, I told you I'm not a simple girl. So I had other stuff going on the side. When I was not working, I was already kind of like trying to prepare myself and starting my own business. And
so why did you think why did you think you wanted to start your own business? Was it because of granddad and mom and dad, or?
I really don't know. I guess so. I guess you could attribute it to me growing up in that environment and just seeing how hard my mom and dad worked. And that's what I knew. Like I would go and sweep out houses with them and put out pine straw, and, clean windows. So I grew up, going to work with them.
Mom and dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess you could, say that definitely, had a part in me wanting to start my own business.
So what are you doing on the side of Dill Chicken?
So I was trying to think here. I had some friends of mine that were engaged and planning their weddings.
Perfect.
And I was like, well, like they knew I worked for the magazine previously and I did events. They're like, will you, can you help me? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like I've been wanting to do this. I miss it. I want to get back into events. I'm scared to do it full time. I just don't think I can financially go full force into it. And like I told you, my husband is a finance guy. So he's like, we need to be realistic here. I'm the dreamer. I'm like, oh, let's just do it. We can make it happen. We'll worry about it later. So I stuck to having, that full-time job. And then I was doing, those events just on the side and helping out friends.
Okay. So you're planning on the side. You do this for a year. When you leave Dill Chicken, what do you do?
So I didn't leave on my own accord.
You got fired.
I don't even like to say fired. Oh, well, I guess it sounds better, but I was terminated was the words they used. So I'll never forget it. It was a Wednesday afternoon and around 2:00, and I get a call from my same boss who was in Chicago. And he was like, Crystal, the company, they are restructuring, and there are about 20 positions across the Southeast that they are consolidating, that they no longer need. They feel like they have people, in corporate that can handle what you're doing. You are no longer needed. You have 2 hours to get everything off of your computer and clean out your desk. And your last paycheck is in 2 days.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Did you start to panic?
Like Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
Insert like crying, hysterical emoji.
So
like
let me go back to this. This is a super out there question.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have school debt that you had to pay for? Did your husband have school debt he had to pay
No.
for? So we're not having to pay for school debt.
We're not. And we were so
That's
blessed.
great. So thankful. Okay.
Yes.
So you get terminated, fired, let go, pick your term.
Last paycheck.
Oh, buddy gives you 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then what?
So I'm literally going to my desk, like, because I had the opportunity to where I was working at the advertiser office, even though I didn't have like a direct manager there. And then I was working, from my house and honestly from my car, wherever I was going, to
all your stuff,
meet these sales quotas. And so I head over to the advertiser, clean off all of the chicken stuff and dump it into a box, carry everything out and boohooing and crying. And I'd made friends at the advertiser that worked directly for the newspaper. And they were like, oh, just shocked and felt bad for me. And yeah. So then from there, I was like, okay, God, like I've realized if you close a door, you're probably going to open a window.
At least
maybe the window is me to like actually do this thing and go for it. So I did.
So after you get let go, what do you do from there? Like, what do the next, say, 6-8 weeks look like?
Yeah.
Because everybody wants to know, how did you start? You had to start. So I started what we did very slowly and very methodically and like secure financially. So you did not have that.
Yeah. No, I was
Rick gave you your last check and said you got to go.
Rick was like, peace out.
Yeah.
You're done. You're consolidated. And I was like, I hate that word, but fired is probably even better.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm out.
So what did the first 6-8 weeks look like?
Yeah. So it's honestly kind of a blur because it's pretty wild how it all just happened pretty fast. I remember talking to my husband and I was like, Trip, I don't know what we're going to do. What, should I go full force into this events thing?
Let me ask you a technical question. What percentage of the household income were you?
Oh gosh, at that point, I would say he was definitely the breadwinner for sure. I mean, I was bringing in, I don't know, I'd have to look back, but I don't really know what percentage. Maybe a little less than half.
Less than half. So a pretty good chunk of y'all's income. Okay,
maybe
go ahead.
Less than half. All right. So I decided at that point, I was like, okay, I either need to do this, full time or just table it and go into something else. So I prayed about it and I was like, okay, what do I do? Well, lo and behold, I literally get a call. Like it was either the end of that week, like that Friday, or the next week. A friend of a friend had gotten engaged and she had seen the wedding that I did for my friend and she wanted to talk.
Great.
So I was
I need a deposit.
Okay. I was like, this is perfect timing.
Yeah.
All right, let's meet. So I remember driving down to, what is the name of it? It's down 65. Like I was headed towards Monroeville, but we stopped and ate at Ruby Tuesdays.
Yes, perfect. Greenville, somewhere around there.
It's Greenville. That's it.
Yeah, there's your Ruby Tuesday.
Yes, that was it. Pulled over. I had like my little notebook and all the things, and walked in and set up shop in Ruby Tuesdays, and we talked about her wedding, and I just tried to act like I knew what I was doing.
Sure.
I really didn't. And, but she hired me, and that was really the first like true hire.
Okay. So she hires you, and then what comes next?
It then just kind of snowballed. Like, and that's the funny thing too about small towns. So my husband always laughs at me too, the way I pronounce it. I always say Monroeville, but it's Monroeville.
Monroe. Yeah.
Monroeville. Down there, once we had one of it was almost like it just kept happening. So I was like in Uriah, Alabama, in Monroeville, a lot.
Because all of those towns, here's the thing, all of those towns have pockets of people that have money. No matter how socioeconomically depressed they are, there's always a handful of people that can afford to hire a planner for something.
Yeah.
And they all have friends, and all those friends come. And if you do a good job,
They all want to hire you.
They all wanted you to do something for them.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened.
That's what happened.
Okay. So at this point, it was just you. Were you doing flowers too? Because you talked about the flower stuff.
Yes. So
you're like 26.
Yes, I'm young.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was doing flowers because I loved flowers.
Sure.
Like that was something else I was very passionate about. So sidebar, my grandfather was an avid rose gardener. My grandmother on my dad's side, she worked at Kafko in the nursery. And then my mom, she loves to garden. And I feel like I just come from a family that we love gardening and just big dorks about being outside
right.
and all of that kind of stuff. So, I forget where I was.
Plan the first event.
And
then it snowballed from there.
Yes. So at that point, I felt like things were good. Like I kind of felt like we were getting calls and, people were asking us and inquiring with us and wanting to see what we could do. But back to the flowers, that was something I knew early on that I wanted to implement just because I loved it. Like I felt like that was just me, that it fit me and what I love doing. I love to create with my hands, but I'm also very analytical. So that's why I loved the planning side of things and, being more of a passionate problem solver. So I taught myself how to do flowers.
How did you, say you taught yourself. Was YouTube prevalent back then?
No, not really.
So you couldn't look up, I look up just about everything.
I guess you could, but I literally purchased probably every flower book you could think of.
So you had to actually do it with books.
Yes. I was reading, and I still have a lot of my notes to this day. It was like in an old, just like 3-ring binder and notepad, but I would take notes just about, different flowers and like tips and tricks, what to look out for, how to keep them hydrated. And anything you could possibly think of. And then also color theory and different design techniques. And so funny enough, like my first wedding, in which one of my good friends, she'll laugh. She hears me say this, her wedding, I had no idea what I was doing with mechanics. Like she wanted hydrangeas for her big archway.
Sure.
Mind you, her wedding was in like June. It was hot. It was like 103 heat index. It was super hot. I didn't realize that I needed to incorporate floral foam, which is Oasis, or some type of watering mechanism with those hydrangeas. Those things just
what did you call it? Now you call it semantics. You call it what?
Oasis.
No. You said you didn't understand flower. Not analytics. What'd you just call it?
Okay, sorry.
So flower mechanics. What is flower mechanics?
So when I'm saying mechanics, I'm meaning more about like the structures that you can use to actually install floral arrangements. So the mechanics that go behind
stuff that you don't see.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
So that experience taught me like, hey, you cannot put hydrangeas on a PVC pipe archway, which that's what her dad made, was like this PVC pipe arch.
Did they die?
Oh my gosh, they wilted.
They look horrible.
But she loved it. And looking back, I will say it is still beautiful to me to this day because it was such a special day for her. And it was truly the first, I guess you could say, my first wedding, not my first one that I was like hired to do.
Yeah.
But I learned so much from that. That wedding truly like kicked off the fuel that I needed and the passion to understand it's okay to make mistakes. You got to learn from those, dig your heels in and figure out how to make it better next time.
So it's all just going to go together. So how old are you now?
36.
36. So you've been doing this right around 10 years ish.
Yep.
So as you go through Southern, when do you start? Is it Crystal Strickland events or does it start out being Southern Posies?
So it started out just like I didn't have a name.
Sure.
You know me, again, go back to the intentional factor. I'm very intentional in like what I do with my personal life and my business. So I wanted to have a name that meant something to me. And I remember doing a lot of research and bouncing a lot of different names off to people and like family members and friends. I remember at one point had written down like posh posies or something like that.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, it was just so many different random names. But then I eventually settled on Southern Posies just because I feel like being from the South and like
great name.
Southern, it's just being Southern itself. There's so many like things you think about, right? Being a Southerner, you think about hospitality, you think about entertainment, about loving and caring and serving people.
A friend of mine, Jeremy Crabtree, who owns 2 coffee shops in Cookeville, Tennessee, and owns a sticker brand. He made a comment about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And he said, because he sells stickers, not even bumper stickers, stickers with Southern sayings on there.
Okay.
And he makes so much money. And I go, bro, how are you doing this? He goes, the South is a brand.
It is. Yeah.
And I think the SEC has helped that. I think the success that we've had athletically, I think that's part of it. But I think also like the Chip and Joanna Gaines stuff. I think the husband and wife from Mississippi that are now doing it, the home stuff now.
Yeah.
The South is a brand. And so being Southern, people poke fun at us, but it is a brand in itself. No one's proud of being from the North.
No, that's true.
Seriously, think about it. Who's proud of being from the Northwest? No one.
Yeah.
But I am extremely proud to be from the South.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just something that like, you can't even really describe it unless you're here.
I agree. It's a great way to say it.
One of those things, but, and then posies means, like a gathering of flowers, like a little, so I just felt like
it fits.
It worked. It was perfect for who I am and, what I stand for and what I love. So,
okay. So you have a name. We're in the 10-year process. So one of the things that people always want to know, so there's a friend of mine that does flowers in Trussville, does a wonderful job. We used her a bunch. When did you get to the point where you realized you couldn't do it out of your house and you had to buy a space? Because that is a big tipping point for people in owning their own business, because it's a huge risk. The first risk is when people are working a W-2 job, i.e., the naked chicken or whatever it was called. And you have to transition from a W-2 job to doing your own thing.
Self-employed, yeah.
And then the bigger transition, I think sometimes, is actually paying money for a space.
Yes.
So how long did it take you to go from doing it out of your garage / house to actually paying for a space?
Yeah. So I think it was around, I'm going to say maybe 6-7 months. We were already exploring. It. Yeah. And then we might not have signed the lease until like a little after a year, but we were already exploring like where we needed to go, what we needed to do. I was doing everything out of the living room and dining room of our small little 1920s bungalow in Old Cloverdale, which is a little like almost garden district, Montgomery. Sure. And I remember soaking floral foam, all my stuff in my bathtub. And my husband was like, Crystal, we're going to have a permanent green ring in all of our tubs. Like we have got to do something. And flowers were in every nook and cranny. And my dog, would carry.
Did you have any pictures of all that?
I need to look back.
You need to.
Yeah.
Because that's fun.
Yeah. I vividly remember sitting there and making a lot of this just myself.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't afford to pay anybody. And
absolutely. Was my next question is like, do you have any employees at the time?
I didn't. My precious husband, God, he did so much.
Yeah.
I mean, it truly just anything that I needed. I mean, he was like, I remember us going and setting up events, he and I, and then my mom and dad following behind us. My parents were there, helping too. And
that's wonderful.
Huge. Yeah. And I'm super close with my mom and dad. Incredible people. But they've always been big believers of me. They're like, whatever you want to do, I don't care if it's hanging on the back of a garbage truck. We're going to love you for it. We're going to support you. Like, you can do it. So they literally believed in anything I wanted to do and always have. So they, would hightail it with us, down to South Alabama or wherever it might have been. And we'd load up these flowers. And at that point, my dad had this trailer, this big pull behind trailer that was enclosed.
Oh yeah. That's nice.
And
especially for flower people.
Yes. And I didn't mention this. My parents, they also had a antique business. So massive, huge warehouse antique business called Lulu's, Addict Antiques. My mom's nickname is Lulu. And they were doing that in conjunction with building. But it's when, we were in that economic downturn.
Oh, yeah.
And building was moving a little bit. Construction was moving slower. So they had the opportunity to do more of that, but still doing building and real estate on the side. Now they're full-fledged crazy, like building houses left and right. So it's just been a blessing. In the antique store, they no longer have it. But when I started my business, they did have
I bet that was huge for like props and business. And
exactly. So I was doing props before they were like really a thing. I was pulling vintage furniture and antiques.
That's awesome.
Out of their warehouse. Yeah. And that was eventually part of our name. It was like events, florals, and props was part of Southern Posies' name. So I had an enclosed trailer lined with shelves. I do have pictures of it. I need to find it.
That's great.
And that's where all of my inventory was. So it was just crammed in this small enclosed trailer. And so we would pull that we wouldn't take it to different locations. We would kind of keep it mainly there at my parents' antique place. Mm-hmm. But I would, if I needed it somewhere else, I could take it, obviously, but I really didn't want to because there was a lot of breakables and stuff like that. But
so you're in a space. Tell me about your first space.
Yeah. So, well, hold on. I want to go back for a second with that first wedding that I was hired to do. I remember my parents went down with Tripp and I, and we had a box truck. I was terrified to make a lot of the flowers ahead of time. Like I said, I really didn't know what I was doing. So I made, I would say, majority of the flowers the day before and day of. And I remember making the bride's bouquet and handing it to her out of a U-Haul. And I look back and I'm like, how in the world, did I go from that to this? And the people that trusted me to do that, it's incredible. So,
God puts people in our lives that give you a chance.
Yeah.
And they're one of them. And that's awesome. I mean, I could list the names of the people that gave me a chance, the Kevin Bolins and Mike Campbell, who gave me a space to cook.
Believed in you, yeah.
They believed in me and they're like, this is nuts. But then obviously you sit there and go, you look at me, not look at me now in a bragging way, but hey, thank you because you gave me a shot to do that. And that's what that person did. Mm-hmm. So, man, that's great. All right. Pretty cool. So first space. Yeah. So tell me about that.
So I moved into a space on Mulberry Street, which is a kind of in that same garden district in Montgomery. And I occupied a little sliver of the front part of this old house. And by little, I mean, it probably maybe a few hundred square feet. It wasn't very big. And in the back was a caterer. So they had their catering business. Who was it? In the back.
Do you remember who it was? It wasn't
Brooks Seal is the owner, and Janet Roberts. I can't remember the name of their catering company, but they were fantastic. Yeah. Great people. So they would be back there cooking, and they did events, and then I was up front working on flowers, and I had my own little shelving area with different vases and containers. Everything was organized, and I had my desk, where I met with people, and they would come in and talk about their events. And so that's where I started out of.
So so let's kind of not skip, but just fast forward to, you've got a team now. You've got a great team. Mm-hmm. So tell me about, the first question is, when did you move into the beautiful space you're now? Because you've got a wonderful office. It's a Butler building, but you have decorated it wonderfully. It looks amazing. It looks so good. It's such a beautiful space. You're a little bit outside of Montgomery, but I would say still the Montgomery area. Yep. So tell me about this new space. Is this the land that y'all bought?
Yeah. So, and when we moved from the first place on Mulberry Street, I actually just jumped a couple of houses over and ended up occupying another place on Mulberry Street.
Okay. So right there in downtown Montgomery.
I occupied that entire house at that point because we just needed more space, and I had 4 storage rooms. So I just didn't have enough room for everything. And my husband and I, we'd been praying about it, trying to figure out where we wanted to go, what we wanted to do. And because we really had outgrown the space, but we just didn't know which direction to head. But we live in the Pike Road area. Yeah. So we really just naturally were inclined to go out that direction.
Where do you live? Yeah.
We ended up stumbling upon a piece of property that was 14.69 acres. It was zoned residential, but I don't know, something about it. We were just like, there is something here for us.
Oh, it's beautiful.
We just felt like maybe, just maybe, we could convince the owners to sell it to us and let us put a business on it.
It's awesome. It's a beautiful space.
Thank you.
In that transition over the years, who was your first? This is another transition that I talk about all the time. So quitting your W-2, buying your first space, hiring your first human.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, look, that you are paying their bills.
Terrified.
You're buying their groceries. If they got kids, you're putting clothes on their kids. That is a crazy thing to think about, especially if you can barely do it to your own family.
Yeah.
So who was your first full-time human?
So my first, I want to say it was a girl named Valerie.
Okay.
And then there was a girl named Kristen after her, but both of them were fabulous. And I mean,
what did they do for you?
So they helped me just, honestly, it was wearing a lot of different hats, because at that point I was just really trying to figure out the business itself and like what I needed to do. And they were helping me with, different planning, facets, with clients, and then also helping with flowers. We also had what we call our floral and event team members. It's usually it's people that have a full-time job, but they want to work, events on the weekend.
Great team.
Yes.
You had males, other than when we worked with you not too long ago, you had males, females.
Yes.
All of them extremely nice. All of them had normal jobs. They come in, they work for you on the Saturdays, and they were so good.
Awesome. Yeah. And I would say now we have roughly around 32, I think, on our floral and event team. So it's a good rotation to where they can, input. They get a copy of the calendar and they can input exactly, when they can work. And I don't know, it's been great. It's really worked wonderfully for us. But yeah, at that point we had mainly just more like floral and event team people, and I had just the one full-time person. And then eventually I just added more and more full-time people. And today we currently have myself, and then I have Allie, my vet manager. She's been with me almost 7 years.
She was great. Yeah.
She lives here in Birmingham, but she says she travels back and forth, not every day, but usually depending on what we have going on each week. Then I have Debbie, my office manager, and she's incredible. She has been with me for a long time too. And then I have Mary Ruth and Anne. They just recently started and they're fabulous. Anne is handling a lot of the floral side of things, and Mary Ruth is in more of a planning lead type role.
So you got 4 full-timers.
And then I have Grace.
5 full-timers.
And she is incredible. She is working on a new project that's kind of top secret right now, but I'm excited to eventually talk about it. I can't right now, but we have some new things we're unveiling. And then Derek and Quanda are also my warehouse leads, and Quanda is fabulous at flowers. Derek is like all of our work husband. I mean, he literally lifts everything, anything, whatever we need. So there's a slew of us. Yeah, there's a lot of it.
That's so good.
Yeah, it's crazy. I never thought, like, if you would have told me it would have looked like this now, I wouldn't believe
7
it.
full-timers. Okay. So let's talk about a little bit of a transition that throws a lot of people for a loop.
Yeah.
Having your own humans. So how old is your first child?
So Mary Layton will be 3 end of August.
3 years old. Okay.
Yes.
So here's what people struggle with. So I missed the first 3 years of my kid's life because I was coaching college football and I just didn't see her.
Yeah.
How has the transition been? That's a vague question. Let me ask it a different way. What is your workload? How has your workload changed since you've had her? Like your workload previous to baby, now mom. Yeah.
It's funny. Before having a child, I felt like I had so much, I don't want to say pressure, but the amount that of work that I put in, in a day, I wasn't thinking about what time I needed to leave.
No.
I was constantly just working, and I've always tried to maintain a decent work-life balance, but it's hard. It's seasons, there's some seasons that are busier than others, but I would say now having a child, it changed the way that I like my productivity. Just I've tried to ensure that everything that I'm doing, like I'm doing it as fast and efficient as I can, but I'm also delegating the things that I know at this point I can delegate in order to make sure the business is operating, and all cylinders are firing where they need to. And so I can still be, a full-time mom, because I want to be able to go and do those things with her. And I like to be involved at her school and go to every single, function and party and
plays.
Yes. That's
really class, all that stuff.
Really important to me. But I would say, my productivity I think it's probably, if anything, gotten better because I prioritize that.
So what's the key though? Like if you were to say this is the one critical thing that you and Trip do as a collectively to make sure A, you get all your work done and are still successful, and B, still a good mom and spouse.
Yeah, I would say at this point, and this has been a few years that I implemented this to where when I get home, I don't like to open up my computer, and I strive really hard not to, get on phone calls and emails and all of those kinds of things. Because when I'm home and when my feet hit the door, I want to spend time with them, and I want to spend time with Mary Layton, and whether it's going down, to the swimming pool or on the golf cart, and going fishing with Trip, whatever it might be. I want my attention to be on them. I'll admit, some days it's hard, as as a business owner, even if you're not working, oftentimes you're thinking about it. Yeah. And so I think I talked to you about that recently. It's a struggle, it's something that I have to work on intentionally every single day. But for me, not getting on my computer and like when my feet hit the door, I'm like in mom mode and wife mode. That really helps me just kind of like transition. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Huge key for us. I was able to do a better job at that when I hired more.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think hiring, for me, the key is leaving work at work and being home and leaving home at home is my staff.
Yeah.
Making sure that if a telephone call comes in or an email comes in or whatever, at number one, I don't have to answer at that point.
Right.
But B, being able to have people that can take care of those things is a huge thing. Oh. And the thing is, you make less money.
Yeah.
But you have more time. Like I could make a lot more money.
Yeah.
A lot more, but I would have
zero time.
Well, I think, especially with the time intensive jobs that we have, talking to people and being places.
Yeah. And that's a good point. I mean, I think being okay with letting that, I don't know, that change in your revenue be an okay factor with you. And I think that's a good thing. I do think also allowing your business to grow when it needs to grow, because sometimes I know for me, we can get in growing pains and I'm like, okay, do I hire, another person or do I just like keep hustling? I agree with you. I feel like there's times where I need to like listen to my gut and just be okay with making that higher, and it's going to set us up for better success.
Let's talk about paying people. Okay. So everybody's got different structures and how many of your people are commission or incentive based, meaning they make more money when the company makes more money? Do you have anybody like that?
Yes. So I do have in my planning roles, I have 2 lead planning roles, and they have the ability there's different like buckets and checklists they have to meet and incentives in order to get those different bonuses.
So it's bonus based.
It's bonus based.
It's not like this wedding was $100,000. You always get X number of % of everything.
No,
we as a company hit these numbers and you get a bonus.
Now I do annual bonuses though at the end of the year. I would say every employee, there's an annual bonus at the end of the year, and then typically, raise as well. So we have, a team meeting, and individual meetings and evaluations. So usually I'll have each of our team members. I used to do it even with our Floral and event team members. They have to fill out a little questionnaire just so I can see where their headspace is and how they're feeling about their work. Are they fulfilled? Do they feel like they need to be doing something else? And what adjustments do they want to see within the company? Yeah. So a lot of those questions that really help me gain insight to where the company should head the next year. And then from there, we do evaluations and, and raises and bonuses at that point.
So let's talk about pricing. So I know for us, from day one to now, our prices have increased dramatically. Mm-hmm. What makes you, when do you decide, hey, we need to go up on this thing? Not based off flowers, because if, hydrangeas are $5 and now they're $9, obviously you have to go up. But what makes you up your service fees?
Like the planning service? Yeah. That's a great question. It's honestly one of those things where it's a hard thing to gauge, just because you don't want to price yourself so high out of the market to where people are like, oh, well, I'm just going to go somewhere else, but you don't want to underprice yourself for the quality of service that you provide. So, for me, I feel like right now where we are, I'm happy with the structure that we have. And I'll just be very honest. I'm pretty transparent about pricing, but, we used to be just a flat fee, and that eventually hurt us because, as you can imagine, a wedding for 200 people is going to look a lot different than a wedding for 600 people. Or a wedding that's a tented event is going to look different than a wedding that's in a club. There's a lot of different factors that go into executing a successful event, depending on a lot of those variables. So that flat fee was not working, and did a major overhaul of that. And we work off of a base fee plus production fees on various vendors, because that helps compensate for the fact that we're designing everything as well, and not just planning. Production fees, meaning like the caterer cost $5,000. I'm just using caterer example. Catering costs $5,000. Mm-hmm. Y'all take a percentage of that. Correct.
Take a percentage of the rentals, take a percentage of the whatever.
Yeah. It's not every single vendor, but it's the ones that we know are going to take a lot more time on the back end based on head count, and also the ones that we know we are spending an intense amount of time designing as well.
Do you up the percentage based off of holidays and travel?
So we are implementing a lot of changes to our holiday rates, just because, I'll be honest, I covet holidays, and I know my team members do too. And if I feel like a sense of not really wanting to work, a certain holiday, how can I expect my team members to want to work that too? So we also have, team meetings about like, hey, this event came in for this particular weekend. I know we're scheduled to be off. Do y'all want to take it? And if so, who wants to be the lead? And there might be some extra like bonus or pay incentives for that. So I kind of give them the opportunity to also, take ownership.
We do the same thing. So like we have certain things. It's Sunday. Mm-hmm. I'll pay you more for this or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So, this has been so much fun.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed it.
I too.
I've enjoyed knowing more about what you do. And I really think there are a lot of people out there that are fascinated with the planning industry. Yeah. And I feel like you've got a great story of.
Thank you.
And I'll be honest with you, it's very, very, it's a little bit traditional, like a lot of ladies in the South. Mm-hmm. Meaning high school, go to Auburn, go to somewhere. They want to be a planner. You got a real job, get fired, and then you are forced to start.
Yeah.
But I think the great thing about what you did is we had a wonderful support team around you. And it's going to resonate, I really think, with a lot of people that are looking to do this in whatever kind of hospitality industry, because it's a very, very good story. So here you are, would you say 36 years old? Mm-hmm. 36 years old, 3-year-old child, married, and extremely successful at a young age. And so I think it's great. So I'm so thankful to know you, that you came on. If someone needs to find you, whether it be on social, whether it be a website, where do they need to go?
Yeah. So I would say definitely social media, our Instagram, Southern Posies. And then of course our website. We just got a shiny new website.
Shiny and expensive.
Yes. And stay tuned too. We have some fun projects that we're working on.
When will that be available?
Oh gosh. I feel like if I speak it, it's going to put even more pressure on me. So I probably should speak it because it needs to be out there, but it's our hope this fall.
Okay, great.
I'll just get vague.
Yeah. But really good. Crystal, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.